So here are 10 songs that taught me punk, from easy to way too friggin' fast. Punk was well past its prime by the time I hit high school, but the DIY anti-establishment vibe of punk helped me get through teenagedom alive, and gave me the bass skills I needed for my ska band and far beyond. And of course it all had to start with this first song. It came storming out on this band's 1976 debut album that arguably made punk what it is. And if you don't know the song immediately, then strap in, because you're going to punk school. The Ramones were my first punk experience. And man, I was blowing it on this song when I first tried to learn it. Dee Dee Ramone only played 3 notes, but they're just fast. Too fast. The Ramones were the template for The Clash, Dead Kennedys, Green Day, Descendants, and every other band coming up in this video. And they played so fast that all other bands sped up after hearing them. Struggling to play songs like Blitzkrieg Bop and I Wanna Be Sedated inspired me to work through the burn to increase my speed, which paid off in the other styles I played too. And speaking of speed, song number 10 goes so fast that I actually never finished learning it. And I had to practice it a ton just for this video, like a lot more than you'd think somebody would practice for a YouTube video. We'll see if I can play it at the end. But first, song number 2 showed me how to use that Ramones speed and add more edge. It was this band's first ever recording, released in 1979. I was so into Dead Kennedys. Just something thrilling about hyper-political hardcore punk that came out before I was even born. This riff took that Ramones speed, but also hooked my ear with the weird notes. And there's actually some deep punk wisdom hiding in there. See, when you start learning bass or any instrument, stock B-roll teachers always want to slam you with scales and rules about which notes are allowed. But do we really think singer Jello Biafra, who actually wrote this riff, showed up to rehearsal one day and said, "Hey lads," he's not British, it's just fun. "Hey lads, I think we should write a riff in E-flat Locrian. The kids will love it." No, he noodled his fingers around on the frets and found a sound that he liked. Riffs like this inspired me not to be too rule-oriented, and to just try it out on the bass and see what it sounds like. And weird notey riffs became super common in punk rock. You can also hear this vibe in It's Shoved by the Melvins. So good. And that influence carried over into grunge too, like this Nirvana riff from Milk It, which basically sounds the same. Plus, modern punk bands hit the weird notes too, like the Bobby Lees, my favorite punk find in the last few years. Dope bass playing by Kendall Wind. But not all punk was banging out super weird notes. This next one took me way back to a more classic sound, but it took me longer to notice because this band's bass player had a really bad rap. According to the scientific data of Rolling Stone magazine, this is the 56th greatest song of all time. Can't argue with science. But why is the bass line so good? Didn't Sid Vicious suck at bass? Why, yes. Yes, he did. That's actually Glenn Matlock, the original bassist of the Sex Pistols, killing it on this track. And guitarist Steve Jones played the excellent bass on the rest of the album, not Sid. So I almost wrote off Sex Pistols bass playing without even listening. But in case you didn't notice, this bass line is super deep. There's this myth that all punk musicians are super raw and unschooled, but check out the fill that Glenn plays towards the end of this verse. And here's I Can't Turn You Loose by Otis Redding with Duck Dunn on bass. Sound familiar? Basically the same thing. Not to mention the fill that comes right after that. It's a super classic blues walk-up. Glenn Matlock clearly brought deep knowledge of styles that came before to the Pistols punk. Plus he's playing with his fingers and not a pick, and I found this validating as a young fingers player who absolutely sucked with a pick back then. And possibly still, I don't know, we'll find out at the end of the video. The fingers give a more classic Motown kind of sound on this track. But song number 4 bumped up the difficulty and helped me build my skills as a wide-eyed young bassist. Recorded an hour from where I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. Not by me, I wasn't involved. This bass line is so good. It was really not cool to like Green Day when I was in high school. It was like they put out American Idiot and then everyone was like, you guys are posers. But it turns out Mike Dirnt is a frickin' killer. His hooky playing with Green Day helped keep melodic punk bass alive in the 90s. This one is really fun to play, and it also showed me some bass techniques that I found really useful in other styles of music. Cause when you don't want every note to sound the same as every other note, it's really cool to use hammer-ons and pull-offs, which means using your fretting hand to smack and pull notes without using your picking hand, leaving it free to grab your mouse and move it over to the like button. These notes have a slightly different flavor, so when you mix them with picked notes, you get a more interesting variety of tones. Check out how this riff would sound with no hammer-ons or pull-offs, just picked notes. And then here they are back in. It just sounds cooler and it flows a lot better. All right, we're getting near and dear to my little heart here, because no punk song has been drilled into me harder than song number 5. I was too nervous and wimpy as a kid to actually skateboard, so I heard the song a million times while I was playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater on N64, and all I can say is pick it up, pick it up, pick it up! Kickflip McTwist, Batman. Bassist Simon Williams filled this song up with tasty melodic playing, so I haven't even gotten sick of it after all these years. The coolest part of the line is right here where he's doing like Ramones style 8th note chugging, rim, bim, 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 but then as the song builds up, he actually goes simpler and he starts playing melodic walking quarter notes. This is a big part of getting that tasty punk ska vibe. You get a similar thing from Mike Dirnt on Longview, and from the legendary bassist in song number 10. Yes, I'm gonna keep teasing you so you watch the whole video. Welcome to YouTube. So if you want a punk ska like a punk ska-er, how do you actually figure out what notes to play? Well, these PBR drinking denim jacketed hoodlums probably actually learn their scales. But learning scales and stuff is usually hard and boring, which is why my Beginner to Badass course teaches you theory and scales while playing actual music. And I've heard from thousands of students that this got them unstuck on things they've been trying to learn for years. So check out Beginner to Badass at bassbuzz.com or in the link below, because there's nothing more punk than online commerce. I was jamming hard on 90s revival punk, but song number 6 showed me more cool bass stuff and brought me back to the classics. The classics. The classics. The classics. So cool and beefy with those big epic slides. This riff really made me want to not suck with a pick. See, despite my punk demeanor and thoroughbred ska heritage, I played almost all fingers for many years. And of course, fingers are cool, but pick playing has a couple solid benefits over fingers for typical punk bass. Compared to fingers, you get a more cutting tone with the pick, so your lines stand out more clearly. And also some things are way easier to play with a pick, including the tweedledee of this riff. It just pops and flows so nicely with a pick. So I'm glad this riff encouraged me to build some pick skills, because song number 7 also sounds sick with a pick, and it uses a tasty bass maneuver we haven't seen in any of the other riffs. My first Blink-182 exposure was All the Small Things, and I was just like, pop punk, But when I heard Carousel, it really turned my perspective around, like a carousel. You get it. And bassist Mark Hoppus is using a super cool trick to make the bass stand out as a melodic instrument. This move gives the song a bit of The Cure or New Order vibe, kind of like Peter Hook's bass line on Love Will Tear Us Apart. So what's going on? Sexy ass bass chords, that's what. You don't hear these in that many songs, because if you play them down low, it just sounds kind of like muddy and gross. But on the right song, playing up a bit higher and a little more guitarly sounds very lovely. And And speaking of playing up high, I think this next bassist is the most fearless explorer of high notes in punk bass. I got into this song a little more recently. Somehow this band wasn't on my radar growing up. And this is absolutely the most epic punk song of all time. Check it out. So yeah, if you don't know the song, it's 18 minutes, 21 seconds. That's like 50 Ramones songs. And the first line of lyrics is just like, my spirit animal. Where are all the stupid people from? And how'd they get to be so dumb? Poetry. And I love how Fat Mike wasn't afraid to play chords and then lay down a fat riff and then jump up high and play crazy shit. This live version is incredible, by the way. Check it out. And he's singing too. Holy crap. This style of playing kind of breaks all the rules of bass, which is great because there aren't actually any rules. And it's punk, so fuck them if there were. Let's break some more fake rules. Song number 9's bassist has the wrong tone for punk, but it sounds so right. On the bass with one of the most melodic punk bass lines ever. And man, that nasal fingerstyle tone, it really speaks to my nerdy jazz fusion heart. It sounds less like typical punk tone and more like Jaco Pastorius, who actually described his style as punk jazz, so there's a link there somewhere. And Alvarez's bass tone could easily be described as wrong for the style. It's too warm and punchy. But here's what the song would sound like with stock pick tone. It's cool, but it like loses some of the quirk that made Descendants not just another punk band. Punk is an amazing art form because as soon as you try to nail down what the rules are, it's not really punk anymore. And am I punk anymore? I don't know. Let's find out. Song number 10, my personal white whale of punk bass. I practiced really hard for this. I don't know if I can do it. Let's see. I know, you're expecting the bass solo. I'll try it in a second. But I was sitting in 10th grade biology class, and a kid named Brian handed me a CDR with handwritten pen that said, "And out come the wolves." And thus I got turned on to Rancid and Matt Freeman's absurdly good playing. This iconic solo has haunted me for years because it's too fucking fast. Matt actually has a YouTube channel, which is super cool. And Matt, if you're watching, we want a Maxwell Murder video, and we want it now. Also, I'm sorry I listened to a burned copy of your album. Look, I bought one later, and now I don't even have a CD player. Okay, bass solo time. I think I can do this. I don't know, we'll see. This was hard, but I actually learned it faster than I thought I'd be able to after all these years of struggling and giving up. And I used the exact method that I lay out in this video on how to learn bass as fast as humanly possible at any level. So click on that now to resolve the furious itch of curiosity that you're now feeling.